So, today we're going to tackle one of the most complex and honestly misunderstood conditions of our time: depression. We're going to dive deep into what it really is, where it comes from, and explore some really powerful paths toward resilience. Let's get right into it.
To really get a sense of its weight, it helps to look back. Winston Churchill famously called his recurring depressive episodes his black dog, this constant, unwelcome companion. It's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? For an experience that just follows you, a shadow that's just really hard to shake.
And this is not some rare thing, it is incredibly common. A staggering 1 in 5 people will experience a major depressive episode in their lifetime. Think about that for a second. That means it's pretty likely that either you or someone you care about will have to face this black dog at some point.
All right, so what does it actually feel like to be in the grip of this condition? I mean, it's so much more than just feeling sad. Let's take a closer look inside.
Okay, and this is a really critical distinction to make. On one hand, you've got what we might call the blues. It's temporary, it's often tied to a specific situation, and you can usually push through it. But clinical depression, that's a whole different beast. It's a debilitating illness, a total loss of desire and self-worth that can last for months and absolutely requires a medical approach.
When you hear people who've been through it describe it, they often use these really powerful metaphors. They talk about being enveloped in a gray fog or feeling trapped in a room without light. It's this profound loss of energy, that spark that makes you, you. It's an internal state that just colors everything.
Okay, so where does this actually come from? Well, science is starting to show us it's this incredibly complex, almost like a biological labyrinth. For decades, the story we were all told was pretty simple, right? Depression is a chemical imbalance. You don't have enough serotonin. It was a neat, tidy explanation, but as we've learned, it's just not the whole story, not even close.
And this analogy just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. You take an aspirin for a headache, and it helps. But was the headache caused by a lack of aspirin in your system? Of course not. It's the same logic here. Just because some medications affect serotonin, it doesn't mean a lack of serotonin was the root cause.
So, a much more modern and, frankly, more hopeful way to look at this is through the lens of neuroplasticity. That's the brain's amazing ability to change and rewire itself. But what seems to happen in depression is that this flexibility gets impaired. The brain gets stuck in these rigid, negative ruts, these thought highways that become really hard to get off of.
And this is maybe the most crucial takeaway of all. There is no single cause of depression. It's a complex web. It's a mix of genetics, major life events, things like chronic inflammation in the body, and even the health of your gut, what scientists are now calling our second brain. All these things interact. So if our brains can get stuck on these negative highways, the big question is, how do we get off? How can we help it build new, healthier paths? All right, this next part might sound a little out there. What in the world do horse anesthetics and electroshocks have in common? It sounds like the setup to a strange joke, but the answer points to two of the most powerful and, let's be honest, most misunderstood treatments for severe depression. Let's break these down, because they're fascinating. Ketamine, in a clinical setting, seems to open up this window of neuroplasticity, making the brain flexible and ready for change, offering rapid relief. Then there's modern electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT. And let's be clear, we are talking about modern ECT. This is nothing like what you've seen in old movies. It acts like a hard reset for the brain's circuits, and it has a stunningly high efficacy rate, around 95% for severe cases. But, and this is huge, rewiring the brain isn't just about top-down medical treatments. It turns out our own actions can be an incredibly powerful tool for forging those new neural pathways. And that brings us to something called behavioral activation. The core idea is simple but revolutionary. Action comes before motivation. Instead of waiting until you feel like doing something, you do things that are important to you, and that action itself helps you to feel better. So how does it work in practice? Well, it's really built on 3 core pillars. First, you just track your activities and notice how they make you feel. Then, you figure out your core values, what truly matters to you. And finally, you use those values like a compass to schedule meaningful actions into your life.
The research is clear. For many, this is just as effective as medication. All right, for our final piece of the puzzle, let's step back, way back, to an ancient philosophy that gives us a timeless toolkit for building a more resilient mind. You know, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote this almost 2,000 years ago, and it's just as powerful today. This central idea of Stoicism isn't to be emotionless, not at all. It's about focusing your energy like a laser on the things you can actually control, your thoughts, your actions, and learning to accept the things you can't. And this is such a powerful metaphor for a trap we all fall into, the comparison trap. It really is like being a driver who's constantly glancing at other lanes, thinking they're moving faster. All you do is lose focus on your own road, you waste energy, and you end up getting nowhere. The only journey that matters is your own. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it's about building a few key mental habits. It's remembering that everything changes, the good and the bad. This too shall pass. It's speaking to yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. It's letting go of yesterday and seeing every morning as a fresh start. And it's about reframing challenges as opportunities to get stronger. And all of this really leaves us with one last profound question to think about. A Stoic would say that pain, physical, emotional, is an inevitable part of being human. But suffering, that's the story we tell ourselves about the pain. And that story, that's something we might have a choice in. It's a powerful idea to hold on to as we all work to build a more resilient mind.